In Indian culture, when we're born, we have ceremonies for the child. And then when the child turns roughly a year old or even older, we give them a name, an ancestor's name. And so suddenly we have the birth again of the ancestor who is going to live through this child, with this child, and guide this child. So that's sort of our concept of time, meaning we have no real end and we have no beginning. Everything is connected like a circle. And so this concept of our life cycle as a circle is really emphasized in our baskets, because our baskets are not only cylindrical, but a lot of our designs are connected. So you don't know where they begin and where they end, so we just have to learn how to read the basket. The materials I work with are always special to me because I know there's beauty within the plant fiber. So whenever I harvest any kind of a plant, I offer a prayer to that plant, because that plant is offering itself not only to me, but to my basket, to my culture, and to the future generations who will be seeing it. So the baskets to a weaver are almost like a living entity. I'm enrolled in the Wasco Nation. The Wasco people lived along the Columbia River for generations and generations. And when our ancestors lived along the Columbia River and harvested all the salmon, we always caught more salmon than we could possibly eat for the entire year. And we would dry the salmon, and when we pounded it, it would be a concentrated protein. This concentrated protein we put in big baskets, and this was a popular trade item. So the people in the Missouri River trade route, the Hidatsa, Mandan, the Sioux, they all knew of the Wasco people because of the powdered salmon, and they all knew of those baskets. This basket was probably made between 1850 and maybe 1880. These long, large figures represent our ancestors. And this little figure here is a person, and just how important our ancestors are to the person. These images are images of condors, and these are found on a lot of Wasco baskets. Condors used to live in the Columbia Gorge for generations, up until about the early 1900s when they became extinct. And I think they became extinct because people just shot them when the Euro-Americans were moving into our area. This is a recent basket I did about a year ago. This is the image of a condor. And now, what we now see are airplanes. I was born on the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs Reservation in Central Oregon. It's a high desert, semi-arid area. In the 1850s, when a lot of Americans were moving westward, they wanted agricultural land. They wanted to be near rivers, and they looked on us as savages. And so we were forced to sign a treaty which forced us from our traditional land along the Columbia River. I grew up not knowing anyone who made the baskets. I thought that that whole technique had died out, that I would never see anyone weave a basket. It just never dawned on me. Not only would I not see someone weave a basket, but it never entered my mind that I would eventually become a basket weaver. I worked for roughly 17 years as a mathematician. And like all women who are professional, we hit the glass ceiling, and I hit it hard. And I decided, I don't want to fight this. What I want to do is something I enjoy. So I thought, I'm going to commit myself to reviving my culture through weaving Wasco baskets. When I first learned, I felt I should be true to my culture and learn the traditional designs. So I took the pains to graph all of them while I was studying them in museums. This is probably one of the oldest designs because it's based on the Wasco basket collected by Lewis and Clark in 1805 when they came down to our area along the Columbia River. And it's very, very intricate. The 1805 basket eventually wound up at the Peabody Museum. So I went and studied it. When I was in the museum and I was holding that basket, it was literally communicating with me through its own way when I was holding it. And it really told me its own story. And its story was based on our historic petroglyphs. The petroglyphs were done along the Columbia River for thousands of years. And these images were really our ancestors. And the geometric outline around each of the faces was a symbol of our fishing nets. So here was, again, this circle with no beginning and no end, which connected not only myself to my ancestors, but connected me to the Columbia River. When I came home from the museum, I wanted to do my own interpretations of the basket. So just as examples, the traditional face on the 1805 basket was like this image. And the images were oriented in this direction, but there's always somebody in the crowd that's a little bit different. So I had to put one that was facing in a different direction. And I put one in that's whistling. And here is a face going, throwing you a kiss. And then finally I had to have one that was smiling, so this is the smiling face. So I think baskets do not only tell their own stories, but they have their own unique life.